Hey there! Welcome to the Flute 360 podcast. I'm Dr. Heidi K. Begay, and I'm a flutist, educator, coach, and podcaster. My God-given mission is to serve you. I am passionate about guiding you, the modern-day flutist, to discover your unique voice on and off the stage. The goal of this podcast is to help you thrive, both as an artist and as a musicpreneur. Go ahead and grab some espresso, your favorite notepad, and let's get to it. Today's episode 253 is titled, Making a Point to Build Professional Relationships with Nestor Torres. Founded in Dallas, Texas in 1996, the Carolyn Nesbaum Music Company is renowned for its international service for flutists of all levels. The Carolyn Nesbaum Music Company is your premier resource for everything flute. Their selection of flutes, piccolos, low flutes, and head joints from dozens of makers is truly remarkable. Also, their offerings of sheet music, instrumental accessories, teaching, and health resources are unmatched. Their in-house staff offers an unparalleled level of expert knowledge and personal service with an in-house repair staff certified in all major brands. Follow the Carolyn Nesbaum Music Company through Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter to be updated with the latest news. Check out their website at fluteforyou.com. The Carolyn Nesbaum Music Company is truly your one-stop flute shop.
Heidi.
Hi, Nestor.
How are you?
Good. Are you able to come onto video?
Absolutely. Yes, here we are.
Hey, there you are.
Yes.
And you even have the wonderful Haynes background behind you.
Of course, yes.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
Not at all. I'm just improvising here because there's some repairs that are happening in my office, and so I'm in the car, and I am just making sure that we're set up in a good way so that, yes, here we go.
Awesome.
Okay.
No, yeah, that's
Excellent.
wonderful. I just recorded a podcast episode in my car a month ago.
Okay, so you can completely understand.
Yes, completely.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember this, but we met a while ago, and I'm just jogging your memory. It was when you were a Texas Flute Society guest artist in 2017.
Yes. Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
So it's been a while.
You're in Texas. Were you part of the executive team of the society at the time?
So at the time, I was treasurer for 1 year, I believe. But really, I was involved heavily with TFS before my doctorate. And so from like 2009 to 2015, I wore all the different hats, but not really when you and I met.
But you already had the presidency and so on, prior to that, right?
Yes.
You were a former president.
Yeah, good memory.
I remember. When do I come back? When do I get to come back?
Yeah. Well, we'll have to hit up Texas Food Society and ask them.
Are you in Texas still, or
yes,
are you now?
I'm in Dallas.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
So I don't know that you get to see Carolyn Nussbaum frequently or anything of the sort.
Yeah, I know you are a good friend of hers, and I am as well. I also did this past year some marketing work for her, and she's actually full circle Flute 360's exclusive sponsor for 2023.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I say she'll be excellent.
Yeah, I am indebted to her, and she's such a support system for the flute community.
Absolutely. She's a visionary and a powerhouse. What is that? She's a force of nature.
3 perfect descriptive words for Carolyn. Force of nature, powerhouse, and visionary. I love it.
Yes, indeed. I'll come back to that.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. Thank
Oh,
you for
you're
having me.
welcome. The pleasure is
Yes,
all
great to be here.
mine.
And I congratulate you for what you're doing, and I enjoy your work in the podcast and how you're keeping the flute community going. And it's just really
Oh,
a terrific thing. You yourself are a
oh,
great example.
oh, thank you. Oh my goodness. That
Indeed.
means the world to me. And already that just shows you your heart to me, and I respect that so much. You're you're highlighting Carolyn, you're saying sweet words of gratitude towards me. And here we are, and I want to highlight you and everything that you do for our community.
Thank you.
So we'll circle
Okay.
back to you. I
Yes,
can't wait to
yes.
get to know you better.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's start there. Let's talk about your origin story. Let's share with the listeners a little bit about Nestor Torres and what you do. And then later I can pick your brain about your career.
Very well then. Well, my name is Nestor Torres. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. My father was a musician, was a pianist and vibraphonist, and he played the organ as well. His aunt was a very prominent vocalist by the name of Ruth Fernandez. In fact, they called her the El alma de Puerto Rico hecha canción, the soul of Puerto Rico made into song. So I'm very grateful. I'm very humble that I've come from a bit of a musical lineage on that. Interestingly, my father never really trained as a musician. He played by ear, but he's certainly by far my greatest influence in terms of taste and in terms of being the best. Since he couldn't be, he didn't get to study music formally. Once I decided to become a flute player, he insisted that I had to study and be the best I could be. So I owe him a great debt of gratitude. So, as I said, I grew up and was raised in Puerto Rico until about I was 18. Then my family relocated to New York City, and I had the great fortune of studying Mannes School of Music with a tiny little bit the last days of John Warner, and then with Andrew Loyola, which at the time was the principal flutist of the New York City Ballet.
Hmm.
I also had the opportunity concurrently at the same time to begin my new a line of studies, which was in the hottest New York dance clubs, playing Cuban
Ooh.
music, playing charanga. I was very fortunate that at the time when I was there in the mid 70s, the salsa music craze was still happening. And within that, there's a subgenre of Cuban music called charanga, which is the instrumentation is a Latin rhythm section, singers singing in unison, and then string section, like anywhere between, today you have as little as one, but, usually about three, to five violins, fulfilling a role that it was just as rhythmic as it was melodic. And the flute had a starring role, a protagonist role. You had the song, but then a great showcase for the flute to improvise a great deal. And I learned to improvise in that setting even before jazz. So that's where I come from in terms of my training. Now, being that I was at Mannes School of Music, and I'll tell you a little bit of a funny story, and hopefully for those very bright, talented folks, young folks that are listening, those to whom everything comes naturally, I took advantage of everything coming naturally to me as a kid. So I really barely ever studied. And so my father told me, the time is going to come out. It's going to come in which, you're not going to be able to just, make it up as you go along. And that's exactly what happened in my third semester at Mannes School of Music. I was great at, sight reading and score reading. And, at the time, I loved Mannes because one of the like OGs, old school of learning how to solfege and read in all seven clefs. Not five clefs. I don't even know how it's going on in this day and age, in terms of the training. But anyway, the sight reading or solfege classes were just fine. Hindemith, Dannhauser. But my third semester, there was a book, and I don't know if you know it, called Modus Novus, which is a sight reading or solfege class. It was like a 12-tone sight reading class. And that's where I say, you know what? I need, as ignorant young people, as young person, you know what? I need to know the world. I need to just get out there. In other words, I was copying out of school. I quit school because I wasn't doing well with that solfege class. But I didn't last long out of school because I knew that I needed to pursue studies. I needed to really study more. And even though I had access to study jazz, flute, I wanted to pursue classical music. More about that later. If you care to know, you can ask me. And that's when I applied and was accepted at the New England Conservatory in Boston. But yet I was attached to my gigs, to my job as a Latin flute player, playing Cuban music. So I'd be commuting between New York and Boston every weekend, at least for a while, until a Sunday night in which I rarely had a night off. And James Galway was playing the Bach Sonatas at Carnegie Hall. I went to see him. And then I thought, I'll just take a little nap before I take my 3:10 a.m. train back to Boston from New York. No, I didn't make it. I was too exhausted. Oh. That's way too much information. I'm being way too, analytical. But anyway, you wanted to know. Those are
and I do want to know. No, that's amazing. And you can talk all you want because this is your stage today, and we really want to learn from you.
Thank you. And thank you for that. And I share these things because in my earliest days, this, as I said, thinking that you can get away with it because you're smart or intelligent, but sooner or later, and I have come to pay the price for that, developing study habits and, steady kind of a work ethic, for the flute is not a problem, it is not that it is always a challenge to make the time to practice, but that need to continuously practice never goes away. The Moise is my, is the Bible, de la sonorité, the daily exercises. That's the go-to forever. So anyway, I did last 1 year in Boston, but just before I went in, I did my first recording as a soloist in Colombia and South America. And eventually, work really picked up, and I did not continue, even though I have had, a total of 4.5 years of university training. My first 2 years were in Puerto Rico. And so that is how, it has been. And that's how things, got started. I was playing with a Cuban band by the name of Hansel and Raul, which were in New York. And then they decided to relocate to Miami. I followed suit. I missed the weather. I missed the sun and the beaches and so on. And so I came to Miami at a time in which my colleagues were saying that I was crazy, that I needed to be either in New York or I needed to be in Los Angeles. I wasn't really thinking. I just wanted the weather and, of course, a woman. My first marriage. That's TMI. And I ended up in Miami. And I am very, very grateful to South Florida and to Miami because being here allowed me to develop a sound truly uniquely my own. I don't think that Nestor Torres' music would be what it is had I been in New York or Los Angeles. So, I'm very grateful to the community here in Miami because I was able to create my own situation in a place like New York or Los Angeles or perhaps even, Nashville or so on. There's very thriving music scenes. But they're really, you have the jazz scene and Latin scene and studio scene and Broadway, and you have to break into that. So there's already established. There's a bit of you can create your situation within that. At the time, I was not very gregarious. I was kind of a shy kid, and I was not very social. Did not know how to do the networking. That is, of course, absolutely necessary. So in coming to Miami, and I really talk about that, not having contacts and not being very outgoing in that way. I had a very, very, very hard time because I did not know how to go. Let me go out network. Let me go meet people. I didn't know how to do that. But at the same time, there was enough room in the music scene in South Florida, in Miami specifically, that I was able to create my own situation. Independent of any kind of, clique, or I just created my own. And so it is that today, I will do, the classical and I'll do the jazz and I do the Latin. And, we've been able to create something that is quite unique. And for that, I'm quite grateful.
Wow. Oh my gosh, Nestor. There were like 10 gems in there that I want to break down and ask more questions about.
Absolutely.
I'm going to try to pick one at a time so I don't get choosing 10 different rabbit holes. But the networking element, it's so true. Building really authentic and genuine relationships is necessary for any gigging musician, for any teacher who's building up their studio. Can you talk
Mhm.
about the importance of networking?
Well, if I talk about it, it's going to be from the other side of not networking.
Okay.
Because of as I just mentioned, I am not someone who really goes out there with that intention. Of course, over time I have learned and I have become much more comfortable with myself, but it's an effort. You really have to make that effort. And so for me is a battle within my own life.
Okay.
So I'm at the risk of becoming maybe a little too profound or philosophical, but I would imagine that whereas there are those who are naturally outgoing, or that have a very strong drive that this is what I'm going to do, this is my direction, I'm going to pursue it no matter what. Blessed are those who have that kind of drive, and or have the opportunities. But it is perhaps somewhat safe to assume that most people, most musicians, as it were, may not have that kind of disposition for whatever reasons. And so it is that, as a musician, we have to just not be mindful of developing our craft in terms of our technique and our musical knowledge. But most importantly, we have to really be mindful of developing our own character and who we really are, and constantly challenging ourselves to develop the kind of strength that is absolutely necessary in order to have a successful musical career. Because of, and just as you were saying that many different, gems come about, as I'm speaking with you, there's something, that shows up for me in terms of, that sense of self-challenge and confronting on one's own weaknesses. It's part of what makes the music. And especially for us as flute players, there are many, 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 many flutists. There are quite a few flautists, and the difference lies in what is it that we have to convey. What do we have to share? What do we have to say with our music? What does our sound convey? See, and I will conclude this particular part of my sharing this with you with an anecdote in an encounter that I had with Robert Dick. Talk about an OG. I mean, one of the pioneers of avant-garde flute playing.
Yeah.
Wonderful man. Many, many, many years ago, he came to do a concert in Miami, and I was invited by the hosts to join him for a dinner. Don't remember the conversation per se, but somehow I ended up asking him about where he came from, and then he talked about his teacher, James Papustakis, who at the time was a principal flutist for the Boston Symphony. And the young Robert at the time was looking to go to college, to higher education, levels. And he was actually accepted at the Boston Conservatory and at Yale. So Robert Dick comes to his mentor, to his teacher, Papustakis, to seek his counsel. And says, I have been accepted at Yale. I've accepted at Boston University. I really want to pursue music. I want to go to Boston University. And then Papustakis said, well, if you really work hard enough, you can, just about anyone can become a really good flute player. But ultimately, what is going to make a difference in your success as a flutist and as a musician is what is it that you have to say through your music? What is it that you have to convey? So go to Yale, have a more holistic, complete education. And whatever time you miss out from practicing because of your academic studies, you can make up for that during the summer. But seek the education, be in Yale so you can have a fuller kind of knowledge and education. And so it is that, we have to, well, we don't have to, but it serves us well if we look at our career development and artistic development, in tandem with our own personal character development, which never stops. I'm saying this to, young folks, students, and to my colleagues. I am reminding all of us how it is that, it's always, a struggle against our own negativity, our own fears, our own doubts. But it is that struggle that makes for such a wonderful inner drama that allows us to really convey and translate that into great, great music that can move people's lives.
Oh, you could not have said that any better. I agree 1000%. And that is literally one of the soapboxes of mine through Flute 360 is, you really have to holistically look at your skill set from this like panoramic view, this bird's eye view. And yes, we have to play the right notes in tune, right, as flutists, and we want to hone that craft. But if the building the relationship networking element isn't there, knowing how to market ourselves, knowing how to then we're missing different pieces to that puzzle. And we need a whole image. We need a whole picture. So that way you can make those creative opportunities for your career a reality and a possibility.
Absolutely. Please don't forget the other 9 diamonds or whatever it is that you want to. Don't forget those. But I want to ask you, Heidi, Doctor, has it been your nature? Have you always been gregarious and driven and motivated to create opportunities? Did that come, naturally to you, or it was something that you had to develop?
That's a great question. And it comes innate to me. It's something that's very natural because people are my fuel. I absolutely love people. I love serving people. I love learning from people. I love talking with people. And as you can see, my face is lighting up because people are the essence of life. And if I can serve with from this heart of servitude and gratitude and give something back to someone, then I've done my job. So like I've had so many fantastic mentors in my life, and they have given me so much knowledge and love and passion and expertise in these different subjects. And I'm a better person because of it. And if I can do that for at least one other person, then I've done my job. And so for me to be driven to make these opportunities, to build these relationships, it's natural for me because of all of those different reasons. And I'm pretty much a massive social butterfly. So, like introverts kind of, they do their thing and they see people and then they kind of retreat into their own home and recharge. My recharge are people and talking to people. So if I don't have that human interaction, then I don't feel like myself.
Founded in Boston, Massachusetts in 1888, the William S. Haynes Company has been striving to make the finest flutes for 135 years and is the oldest continually manufacturing flute company in the world. The legendary Haynes sound is that of depth, brilliance, and projection. This unparalleled tone, combined with a precise mechanism and scale, brings a personal and distinctive feeling to the player, a profound connection that is unmistakably Haynes. The company's dedication to the Boston tradition of flute making and meeting the demands of a modern flutist is carried through every instrument which bears the iconic Haynes monogram. From the gifted middle schooler to the talented high school student, from the aspiring professional to the skillful and enthusiastic amateur, from the teaching studio to the international stage, the lineup of Amadeus, Q-Series, and custom handmade flutes offers a Haynes for every player. Visit our website at www.wmshaynes.com or haynesflutes.com. That works too.
That's very profound. What you just said is that how you're fueled by people. I happen to be one of those who retreats, and whether or not, and you're giving me room for thought, a pause for thought as to when I retreat, am I really recharging myself to get out there, or am I really avoiding something? But that's something for me to reflect upon. I do have to also point something out. You said a very key word, and you said it so naturally and so beautifully, and that is, to serve. When we, as artists, as musicians, and even as teachers, I perform or I teach, they're all part of real, it's about service, it's about really serve. And I feel that is the core. And they are saying, and would you agree with me that the key to absolute happiness or absolute success, and I'm not talking about success financially or career-wise or recognition or security, but fundamental inner success, comes from that word, service. When we make it our core mission to serve, then whatever happens, we're going to win in the end because we are serving. And so vicissitudes and hardships and obstacles, like as well as accolades and success and abundance, it is all for the sake of service. And so therefore we're okay. As you said, as long as we can touch one person's life, as long as we can infuse someone. So thank you for reaffirming that. It's so vital. And you're living in it. This is what your 360 podcast is all about. It's wonderful.
Oh, thank you. And I feel very seen, and I feel very honored that you see that. And thank you for conveying those very kind words. I hold them very true, and I'm not perfect, but this is what I try to lead. This is how I try to lead 360 years and how I try to lead my life, because you're right. In the end, it does come down to servitude. And whether it's, finances are high, low, you're living in a small apartment on a cot or in a home, it doesn't matter. Like, at the end of the day, did you make a difference in someone's life? And
yes.
That's my essence, and that's what
Yes.
gets me out of bed in the morning.
Thank you again for that, because sometimes I struggle with, okay, so what gets me out in the morning?
Yeah.
We have a sense of, right now we're having so many wonderful opportunities, a great projects coming up, and yet it's just there are moments in which it becomes a drudgery. It's it's like, okay, here we go again.
Yep.
And therein lies, once again, it's part of the struggle. So, and I dare say this, candidly and openly, so that those, especially the younger folks that might see us, you and I, doing what we're doing, and there, and records and podcasts and all the things. Oh my gosh, they're amazing people. I don't know about you, but it's like some mornings is just, you really have to make yourself get out there. So don't feel bad, those who are watching. Yep. If you really don't feel like it, if you're not really up to it, you're not alone.
Yeah.
And yet we just make that conscientious choice. I don't feel like it. I don't want to do it. This feels so wrong, but I'm going to do it anyway. And so, and that's what, the part of a principle called the human revolution, of that transformation, that we it's a constant battle. It's a constant battle between our negativity, our cowardice, our arrogance, our weaknesses. It's a battle. But don't misinterpret that. I'm saying it with pragmatism, but at the same time, with an understanding and acceptance, and beyond the acceptance, the embracing of the fact that this is what life is. This is what art is. This is what music making is. This is what living as a human being is. That constant struggle. And it can be a joyful struggle, no matter what. And of course, when we're in the middle of it, it's like, I'm sure, for example, I would imagine that at least there's one person watching this podcast right now that is just like, whatever, depressed or upset or angry, frustrated or hopeless, whatever, that they just don't feel like, and anything nice or positive we can say, this, the cynicism is going to like just ooze out of the person's, I know how that can be. Confronted, transform it. It is possible to not only overcome our negativity or our trials or our hardships. You can overcome them, and in so doing transcend them. But you can do more. You can take a step further, and that is to transform it, so that hardship, that struggle, that which seemed to be the worst possible thing, becomes a blessing. It becomes a nurturing component, a turning point that really springs us forward. And that's what I talk about, being able to embrace the totality of the human experience, which includes, and many times feels as if it is mostly suffering and hardship and dealing with stuff. Yeah, it can feel like that, and sometimes it is. But you know what? If you're able to, once again, confront it head on, say, well, this is what this is, and you know what? I'm going to transform it, and I'm going to make it, work for me. And I know we seem to have steered away from music, but Not really. That's what music making is about. It's about living. It's life, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's literally the totality of 360. And thank you so much for being vulnerable and honest and having these human conversations with me and saying some days are great, some days aren't so great. And I want to have these conversations because I don't want it to be like topics or things that we feel the need as artists to not bring to light and to kind of like stuff in our own closet. Because at the end of the day, we have a lot in common. And actually today, this episode that went out, episode 242, I release my episodes on Tuesdays. My husband was interviewing me and he asked me very candidly, what are the peaks and the valleys of Flute 360? And I said, you can't always be on a peak. It can't always be the peak of Mount Everest all the time. There will be valleys, and to embrace those valleys is good because that's where the learning happens. That's where the growing happens. And if you don't have those valleys, then it's actually kind of a little boring because that's when you get to reinvent yourself, maybe. That's where you get to pivot. That's where you get to re-examine and reevaluate the issue at hand. This is where you get to be messy. That's the beauty, is the valleys. And when you are in those valleys too, they strengthen you, don't they?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. But we have to make our point. We have to make the determination. We have to have that resolve that no matter what, I will overcome. And so that's where the strength and the opportunity for transformation is. We have to make that decision. Hope, in a sense, is a decision.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I've never mentioned this before, but since you've opened up this dialogue, and I thank you so much, Nestor, for that. When you do have those, this is a little coaching tip. I'm throwing on my coaching hat right now. When you have those days when you wake up and you're like, oh, they, I just cannot do another podcast, show notes or whatever it is. Take a step back and ask yourself, like, are you physically, emotionally, spiritually able to do at least 3 things towards your career today? Just 3. And you don't have to feel 100% doing it. A lot of times, like for me, I'm an all or nothing type of gal. So I'm like, either I'm working 8, 10 solid hours and I'm happy doing it, or I'm not doing anything at all. And that's not, what's the word I'm looking for? That's not practical, or that's just not, do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so you're going to have those days where you feel in the dumps. And so when they happen, how do you, like you said, how do you decide to turn things around? And I can wake up one day and say, I'm not feeling completely my best. And then I will ask myself, like, are you physically able to? Like, are you sick? Well, if you're sick, you need a rest. But if you're not, then can you work towards 3 simple things towards your career or your playing today? And just those simple 3 steps it's like, planting seeds for your garden, right?
Yes, exactly.
It will bloom. Like you may not feel like it. You may not feel like getting your hands in the dirt that day. But if you just do it, you are going to see fruits to your labor. And so sometimes for me, like 3 is an easy number. It's something I can bite off and something I can chew, right? And then when it happens and I do it, it's funny. You could probably get through those 3 things much quicker than you realize. And it could happen, you could be done within an hour and say, all right, I didn't really feel like myself in this 100% capacity, but I still did it. It still got done, and the needle can still continue to move forward.
Yes, absolutely. And as you're speaking, it makes me think about it too, that when I am feeling at my lowest is when I am really not doing these things you're talking about. If I don't, if the day goes by and I have not practiced, if the day goes by and I didn't get to make that call, if the day goes by and I didn't get to exercise, it's like, and then it feeds of itself. And so it is that action is absolutely crucial. Another thing that is also crucial, and I'm quite certain, I mean, I cannot say I have seen it in your 360 podcast, but I would almost bet that you have talked about rest, about sleep. Have you not?
Yes.
Sleep is just such an important thing too. we have to, I have someone very, very dear to me, and she talks about the fact that she's a phenomenal person, always working. And she is always thinking that she has, oh, I didn't get to do what I had to, if I didn't do enough, I should be doing more. And I tell her, no, 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 you are doing, right now you are busy. You're doing what you need to do, which is to do nothing. You are resting right now. You are, nurturing your life right now. And we have that, misconception that resting or being still or not being in constant motion, we can misconstrue it. Oh, we're not being productive. We're really not doing, we're slouching, we're slacking, we're slacker. And so it is about that balance, and I need to look at, this is, the whole, oh no, here we go. Never mind. I just watched myself. Anyway, the balance between, doing something even when you don't feel like it, but at the same time being mindful and listening to your body, when you really need to rest and need to sleep a little bit more. Speaking of sleep, my phone at this moment is telling me that it's got a 20% charge. Okay. So just let you know, I don't know if we can take a little break and come back, or if I can take the microphone off and charge it. How should we do? This is real life, folks. This is 360, okay? So assuming that you don't edit it.
Yes. No. And I wouldn't want it any other way. Yeah. Yes. Literally, the conversation I had with Rachel Geyer, I'm like, all right, I'm in the car in Denton, Texas, and here we go. And it actually turned out to be a fantastic episode, just like this one. And so I love it because it's the humanness. This is our daily life. Indeed. Well, you tell me what would make you comfortable. I think we can keep going. If you're at 20%, we're going to wrap up here probably in 10, 15 minutes anyway. So I think so you should have enough battery.
Let's continue. And when it's 10, then I'll let you know. But I'm enjoying this, and the one thing I'm thinking about is that will she invite me back? Could we have a part 2 of 360?
Because you can always come back.
Okay, so okay, so I trust you. Whether you want to move on to talk a bit about music and about flute things, probably some of our folks are listening to and being with us today may want to really delve a bit deeper into the flute questions. But anyway, you did have some other questions or some other subjects you wanted to address. Do you still remember which ones are those?
I have a pretty good memory. I will try to, pull it out of my noggin. But no, Nestor, you are dead on. I love this human connection. I love you talking about, sleep and all of these things, obstacles, wins, everything, because you're right. Like if we can look at ourselves as the human and take care of ourselves and, notice our tendencies. Like you were saying, I tend to be more of an introvert and Heidi tends to be more of an extrovert. Knowing these things about ourselves impacts our career and it impacts our flute playing, and it's all connected.
Yes.
It's all connected. And that's, again, not to sound like a broken record, but that's the heart of Flute 360. And I love how you tapped into that energy today. And thank you so much for having that synergy with me. And I feel like you know me and you know my vision, and we haven't even planned it. And so I feel so honored that you get that vision and you embody that throughout your career. Like the stories I've heard about you and just watching your career from afar, I'm so glad that the conversation panned out the way it did, because this is life.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, indeed. And but and now this may surprise you. I'm going to ask you. So let's talk about my career. Yeah. Because it's definitely not about, enough about me, tell me what you think about me. It's not about that at all.
Yeah.
But rather, I appreciate your words, and you're being very kind as well. And interesting when you say, about, what my career has shown, I said, wow. So what does my career look like from the outside? What is it that, what does it look like, for others, outside? And then from what you perceive or what you think or what others may have shared, what they perceive, then, we can explore that, and I can share with you the other side of what that might be.
Uh-huh. Okay. Can I embarrass you a little bit?
Go ahead. I put myself there. I take full responsibility. Go ahead.
Yes. Well, a little birdie has told me, multiple little birdies have told me that throughout your career, during your travels and stuff, I've heard of you purchasing flutes for students.
Yes, not very often, but occasionally. And yeah, but yeah, but very rarely.
Yeah, but it's happened and these stories emerge, you know,
Mm,
and when we get to share these stories about our flute friends in conversation, you know, at flute festivals and things like that, it makes people light up and perk up and
mm,
it goes back full circle. It goes
mm,
back to the
mm,
beginning of our conversation saying
mm.
leading with a heart of servitude.
Exactly.
That is a fine example. Like for you to go out of your way and give a student an instrument where they can creatively express themselves and get better at their craft,
Mm,
what a sign of just sweetness and
mm.
humanity to be so giving. And so these are the things that are said about you in
Wow.
passing. And that's
Mm-mm.
why I said, can I embarrass you a little bit? Because, uh, you know,
Mm.
it's evident. And in your
Sure.
playing, what I
Mm.
see and what I've seen at through TFS and your YouTube and your other concerts in which you have performed in, I see you as a storyteller. And
Absolutely.
I see you just bringing the humanness out through your music and sharing it with
Mm.
your listener. And that's what I love about your career and what I love about who
Thank
you
you.
are as a person. You're giving
Mm.
and you're a storyteller. And to me, I resonate with that.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And it is. You really nailed it. It is about the story. We love stories. It's about the story always. And I believe I'm quite certain that you approach this, whether it is literally using these words or from different perspective. But the way we present ourselves as artists, and I'm going to be specific about our music and who we are. What is my story? And also the ability to listen, and have the interest. And to me, I find it so much more enriching. What I'm enjoying about our dialogue today is that it is a dialogue. It's an exchange. It's not so much of like an interview of Dr. Begay asking questions to Nestor Torres and he answers, but rather is that kind of exchange in which is I'm just as interested to hear about what you have to say. I'm interested in who you are as well. So the ability to really express ourselves and tell our story, also, to me, I think is perfectly congruent with being willing to seek out and to be open and to listen to, the story of the person across from us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe a collective story, but it is about us being able both to tell a story. Sometimes it's our story, and there may be some other stories, as well as being able to receive and to listen and seeking out someone else's story.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. Oh, thank
mm,
you. And I appreciate that.
mm.
And again, you must like have a camera in the Begay house or something because Eric and I just talked about that in episode 242 where
Mm.
it is a dialogue and yes, as a host, I love holding space for my guests and that
Yes.
brings me so much joy. At the same time, you're right, it is a conversation and that's what podcasting has taught me is to really listen, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and that's really impacted my flute playing. So when I get to sit
Mm.
in this host seat and listen to Nestor Torres's life and his career and how he views certain things, it
Mm.
really gets me in a place of like, yes, I'm hearing these words and that's important and it's giving me an impact, but then listening between like your body language, the
Mm.
synergy, the questions that you're asking, the in between the notes. And that's what music is too, right? Like really
Mm.
listening.
Absolutely.
And that's why I love
Absolutely.
podcasting so much and this networking thing. And I'm using networking very
Yes.
loosely here, but this networking and meeting fantastic flutists like yourself, because it's all connected. Like what we're doing
Absolutely.
here makes me a better teacher, a better flutist, a better person. And
Absolutely.
I'm indebted to all of these wonderful guests, you included, for helping to mold me as a person. And then if we can bring that again back to the top of the hour, if we
Mm.
can then bring that through the earbuds to the listeners across the globe. So that way
Yes.
they are a better teacher, person, player, then we've done our job.
Absolutely, we have. And with that, I think we must conclude our session in that we're running out of battery.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm going to be very bold and I'm going to be very presumptuous and make a request.
Yes.
And that is that you invite me back. And so we can consider this a part one. I have so many questions for you and so many things I'd like to share, adventures and things, my experiences right now, for example, as an artist in residence with the Florida Youth Orchestras as a flute choir here in South Florida. As we're doing different kinds of repertoires, I'm bringing some of my music to these students that are not used to playing, percussive things or so on. So, and I want to hear, things about articulation, about phrasing. And so what do you study? What is your daily practice? And I'll be happy to share the same with you as well.
Oh, that would be amazing. And you are definitely coming back for a part 2. And let's have your 2 episodes then air back to back. So that way it's a nice, neat package.
Excellent. My name is Nestor Torres, and you are really watching and listening to Flute 360 podcast with Dr. Heidi K. Begay. You made me nervous. I'm nervous. Like,
I am so sorry.
No. It's so exciting. I've been in the best possible way, Dr. K. Begay. It's just wonderful. I thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for this wonderful platform that you're providing for all of us. And until the next time.
Thank you, Nestor. Attention Flute 360er. Are you ready to take your flute playing and career to the next level? Have you ever desired to be a part of a flute community but didn't know where to look? Well, look no further because the Flute 360 Accelerator program is now open. This evergreen offering allows you to join at any time and become a part of something bigger than yourself. With access to a mastermind, masterclass, and pocket coaching, you'll receive the support and guidance you need to reach your goals. Don't miss out on this incredible opportunity to accelerate your success as a flutist. To enroll into the Flute 360 Accelerator program today, click the link below in the show notes. See you soon. Let's talk about flute.